Gator Nation, good afternoon. It is game day once again. Feels like forever since we have been inside the swamp, but so good to be here today as the South Carolina Gamecocks stroll into town. Gators have actually owned this series here in Gainesville. Florida 16-2 all time against South Carolina here at home, so that means you need to be loud, rowdy, and get after it to ensure another win here on Senior Day. 17 different seniors will be honored before the game, so make sure you get into the stadium early and celebrate the great careers of a lot of guys that wore the orange and blue. South Carolina's playing good right now, 6-3 overall, 3-3 in the SEC. Gators, of course, 5-4, coming off a big win out at College Station last week. So hopefully that gives them some confidence. The defense was absolutely fantastic, and look out, college football. Anthony Richardson has become a really, really good player, and no turnovers over the last 3 weeks for this Gator football team, so that has been awesome. Well, this is our First and 10 pregame show presented by Wells Fargo. I am Jeff Cardozo. We've got a lot of things to talk about, and let's get after it right now because we want to hear from the man himself. Billy Napier joins the voice of the Gators, Sean Kelly, and they'll prepare you about everything you need to know about the Gators and the Gamecocks.
Welcome back to the show. Hey, Coach, before we continue, this barbershop is just one of the great amenities in this Heavener training facility. This stuff matters to players, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think big time help for them to manage their schedule, their time management, to be able to come in here and get a quick cut. You know, first class. I mean, I think we've dotted I and crossed every T in this facility. We're thankful for it.
Yeah, it's comfortable. We like this. Final home game is coming up. That means a couple of things, Coach. Let's start with Senior Day. You'll have a number of guys making their final appearance at the Swamp. It'll be emotional for not only them, but for you and their families too.
Yeah, 17 guys. You know, I think it's been really part of the initiative the last couple of weeks is to try to send this group out the right way. We got some great human beings in this group, guys that have done it the right way, certainly represented Florida the right way. So it's important to our team. I know that they feel strongly about sending this group out the right way.
Yeah, it all coincides, of course, with Veterans Day being on Friday. Rick Hurtado, of course, who is in charge of sports information for the football program as a veteran, will salute him and any and all who have served. Coach, what ways will you celebrate their service and honor them this week?
Yeah, no, I think it was a big deal for us back in Louisiana. We're going to do the same things here. Really just want to educate the players about, that career path, right? That living a life that, you're serving other people. I think there's some uniqueness to that we need to respect and appreciate. So all first responders, every branch of the military, we bring in a number of speakers. We invite a host of people to practice. We really, each year, want to create an opportunity for our players to express gratitude for some of these freedoms and service that they provide. I think it's special.
It is certainly special. A lot going around a football game that then eventually will be played between Florida and South Carolina. The Gamecocks are coming off of a win. They defeated Vanderbilt up in Nashville. They get themselves back on track. Coach, what do you see in Shane Beamer's team here as you guys get set to meet this November?
Well, they won 5 out of the last 6 and certainly beat the Gators last year. So they've got a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a slip up with Missouri, but overall, since the Georgia loss, they went on a little bit of a run here. So they've got some talented players, really some unique mismatch players on offense. And then I think that defensively, some really high thought of draft pick corner, draft pick defensive line. I mean, I think it's a talented group. Is
there anything that tells us that the Gators have momentum going into this final home game?
Well, I mean, obviously, anytime you come off of a strong road win, you feel good about that. I think the big thing here is that we continue to live out these things that we've been talking about, this brotherhood, this accountability. Certainly seeing players take ownership of that, I think that's when you know you're heading the right direction.
Coach, as always, thanks. Maybe we can get a little shave up here before game day on Saturday.
No doubt.
Coach Napier with us again here this week, of course, coming off the win against Texas A&M. A busy week. Track it all at FloridaGators.com. Kickoff is at 4 o'clock on Saturday at the Swamp. We'll look for another win, the 6th perhaps of the season for the Gators. And until next week, for Coach Napier, I'm Sean Kelly. So long for just a while.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Well, a big part of this staff for Billy Napier was the strength coach. He brought in a guy from Louisiana that he had at Louisiana, now here in Gainesville. And speaking of that, wherever you are right now, wherever you're watching our First and 10 show presented by Wells Fargo, drop it in the comments. We want to know where you're watching from. We had somebody out in California, heck, even somebody from Alaska the last time we did this thing. So let us know where you are and we can hype you up and have some really fun stuff with that. But Mark Hockey has been a big part of this entire transformation of this Gator football team. Worked really, really hard, and he is the guy that over the summer got to be with the players over anybody else. So maybe the most important guy on this team. He's pretty good at what he does. So let's give you a little more insight on the Gator strength coach, Mark Hockey.
Feel like it's always kind of been on my heart to coach. I can remember looking up to middle school PE coach Elliot James. I thought he had the coolest job, right? He would coach us for flag football. Right when you got tired of that, it turned into basketball. Right when you got tired of that, it turned into cabbage ball, a form of baseball. So I always thought he had the coolest job.
Well, he's just coaching football now, but he has gained a ton of experience from all the places he's been in his young coaching career. Stops at Alabama, A&M, and Georgia have helped him learn from some of the best in the business, and he now gets to pass along that knowledge to all the student athletes here at UF.
When I first made the move to the college level as a volunteer internship position with Scott Cochran, another one of my main mentors. He's like a big brother to me. I kind of fell in love with it, and he kind of coached me up at that point. Was like, man, you really got a chance to make a great impact and great influence.
The influence that Billy Napier has made on Hockey is a special one. Growing up in NOLA, Hockey never imagined he'd leave that part of the country, but after being on Napier's staff for 4 years at Louisiana, it was a pretty easy sell to come join him in Gainesville.
Love New Orleans, Louisiana. Spent most of my time growing up in New Orleans and Metairie, a city connected to New Orleans. And it's just great people, great place, great food, great music. Rich culture, rich tradition. Growing up, I would have never thought that I would ever move away. Took a lot of pride in living in that city and living in that state, but been blessed with opportunity to go elsewhere.
Hockey has been full go ever since he arrived, and a message coming from a guy that has worked with over 60 NFL draft picks, including 3 top 5 picks. Well, the players have certainly chosen to listen. The strength coach has the opportunity to be around the guys way more than the position coaches do, and that is a relationship that Hockey covets.
You know, you feel like we've got a huge advantage as a strength coach in the college level about how much time you spend with the athletes, how much you're around them. So very intentional about the messaging. It's been a fun ride.
And those messages may not always stick to every athlete. For some, it goes in one ear and out the other. But for the ones that want to buy in, well, that's when things work out wonderfully.
So I have noticed, and this is my 19th year coaching, guys that I was really headbutting with in the thick of it, those are the guys that end up texting me or calling me, or I might run into them, and hearing it from them is reassuring and is great to know that they view me in a positive light after the fact, and they can appreciate that we provided that structure and discipline.
And just like anything else, the position has evolved, and some of the things that he used to teach don't necessarily work anymore. So it's up to Hockey to research and read what others are doing, inevitably helping the Gator football program adapt to some of the successes that are being seen across the country.
It's important to kind of have a growth mindset, not be fixed or, content with where you're at. So just, social media is a huge tool. It could be a distraction, or you can kind of use it as a tool. The wisdom of the world's at your fingertips. You just got to be disciplined and making sure that you're pouring into yourself in hopes that you can pour into others.
So Gainesville might seem like a world apart from the things he grew up around in Louisiana, but he's helping each player on this Gator football team grow up to be men. And whether it's continuing on to the NFL or just being a great dad someday, Hockey is grateful he is able to just have a little bit of an impact on each and every one of their lives. For Inside Gator Football, I'm Jeff Cardozo. Well, so many of these Florida football players have gotten bigger, faster, stronger. Guess I need to get in there with Mark Hockey as well to see the transformation of all these guys. But one guy in particular, if you stand next to him, you'd be in awe of Amari Burney. We're in awe watching him from afar on the football field. He has been absolutely fantastic. Had that big, I call it an interception. Somebody else called it a strip sack against Texas A&M, but he has been such a big part of this defense. He and Ventrell Miller have been absolutely dominant. We'll need to do that again today against his South Carolina team. But Amari Burney has been fantastic. I even asked him after A&M about his hands. He said he was a stud wide receiver back in the day, and he thinks he could play offense. But we need him on defense. That's what Gator Nation says, and he has been really, really good. Fun to talk to, and you're about to hear him mic'd up here on the First and 10 show.
They mic me up. Now y'all want to talk to me today.
Good rap, no throttle.
This fake trail right here. I don't know who this is right here. Listen, if I was a running back, I'd rush for 3K. If we had an overall, my jump would be 100. Have you seen my high school highlights? Go check them, dude. Go check them. They want me to catch the pig and take it to the crib. Ooh! I ain't got no vert for it, though. I ain't gonna lie. Drop the nuke on the new Call of Duty. Got me 30 kills without dying. I need to practice on my one hand.
We're working over here. You want the cameras on you?
Yeah, I want the cameras on me.
Let me see. Rub on burn hands. Get some of that, no? Family on 3, 1, 2, 3. What?
Well, we know Amari Burney and the rest of that Gator defense has been absolutely fantastic. Shutout against Texas A&M in that second half. So they have been really, really good. Hopefully that continues here in just a little bit today against South Carolina. We know the offense has been really, really good. Gators right now second in all of the FBS in yards per carry. 5.9 every time they put the ball on the ground. And guess what? That is on pace to set a school record, which would be absolutely incredible. So we know the offense is doing its thing, and if they can put it all together, that will be really, really special here on the final home game inside the Swamp. Still hard to believe that that is going to happen. We've got more to talk about, so let's hear again from Sean Kelly, Scott Carter, and Kyle Crooks as they break it down a little bit more for you this afternoon.
Kyle Crooks now joined by the voice of the Gators, Sean Kelly, senior writer of FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. Guys, good to see you again. It's been a while because, well, we haven't had a home game in a while, so we haven't had a chance to have this conversation. But, Sean, we'll start with you. Boy, a really good game in College Station last weekend, kind of exercising the road demons for this program at Texas A&M. Overall, your thoughts on the performance, a really good one from Anthony Richardson and company.
Yeah, probably Anthony's best game as a Gator so far. He seemingly has got this road game thing down, and we'll see if he can translate it to the home field here today. I would say this. Offensively, we're getting very close to what Billy Napier has been wanting all along, and that's a complete 4 quarters, a complete game. I think Florida's offense is right about there, especially with the way they performed this past Saturday. Defensively, Coach Napier's words, how could we have played any worse than we did in the first half? But certainly the turnaround was remarkable in the second half. The Gators defense pitches that shutout, keeps A&M to 1 of 8 on third down, which is certainly a category that's been a bugaboo for the Gator D throughout the season. So vast improvement there. A couple of big-time step-ups. Obviously on the defensive side, Antoine Powell-Ryland steps into the Brenton Cox role. Thought he played very well. They tweaked some things up front defensively, moving McClellan to the interior. And then, of course, at wide receiver and tight end last week, no Keon Zipper, no Justin Shorter, no problem. A lot of guys stepped up. And I think that the Gators had a pivot moment for them this season in winning at Texas A&M, and we'll hope that it translates here later today.
Yeah, game over 500 now, Scott, and an opportunity for an 8-win season and a chance to become bowl eligible here with South Carolina coming to town. But I want to dive in a little bit deeper to Anthony Richardson. You know, we saw a lot of what makes AR so great, that big run for a touchdown, the dime that he dropped in the end zone for a touchdown pass. Where do you see overall when he talks to the media and he meets you guys, the confidence, where that's at right now? Because we know there's a lot on his shoulders, you know, being the quarterback here at the University of Florida. There's been the ebbs and flows, and right now it seems like he's riding a high.
Yeah, I think it is growing, Kyle. You know, he had some issues with that in the early season. He addressed those publicly, you know, and just talking about he had some confidence issues. But I think confidence shows up on the field, and what shows up is he's making better decisions, making better plays. He had some really good throws in that third quarter against A&M. The touchdown passes to Fraziers and Douglas. I think he's only going to gain confidence from an outing like that. I thought that was his best game, probably going back to the Utah game, just as a complete effort, because you got to remember he also added the 60-yard touchdown run. That was a big play in the first half. So, it's an ongoing process with Anthony Kyle. I just think that's the nature of a young quarterback. Again, he's starting today, his 11th career start. So he is still yet to, start a full season of games. And I think we kind of forget about that sometimes. But I do think he's trending upward. And I think for the Gators to get to that bowl game and perhaps a 7-5, 8-4 season, he's going to have to continue on that trajectory that he showed at Texas A&M.
And Sean, let's stick with the offense. AR is a big part of the running game, but the two-headed running attack at the current moment of Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne, he's a guy who continues to dazzle in his first year. Those two, that's really developed into an outstanding duo in the backfield.
Sure has, and their carries have gone up as a result. Season high 22 carries last game for Johnson, 6 yards per carry now for him is sixth in the SEC. And the other thing is this, they're putting it in the end zone too. Touchdown in 6 of the last 7 for Montrell Johnson. And Trevor Etienne now has emerged as not only one of these two great running backs, but he's also your leader in all-purpose yards. He's about 78 yards per game all-purpose because he's become a steady return guy, which is difficult to do as a true freshman. I think that he showed early this season some freshman things. He doesn't look like a freshman really anymore. And I you have to credit this offensive line and what they've been able to do. They've really enjoyed blocking for those guys. I think that Johnson and Etienne have been patient runners behind them, allowing them to do their job. And then, of course, when Anthony Richardson is the threat that he is, that keeps defenders from loading the box specifically for just the running back. They have to be more wary about how Anthony can beat them if they bite too hard on play action or RPO type play with Etienne and Johnson. All this stuff, all this rhythm, the ability to possess the football on the ground as they have, has led to them going now 39 possessions without committing a turnover. And as much as we talk about the defense and their takeaways, turnover margin is dictated by two things. One, can you take it away? And the other is don't give it away. And so right now sitting at +6, number one in the SEC, which is a remarkable number, and it plays into the formula that Coach Napier talks about a lot of times: the ability to control the run game, the valuing of the football, and then strike for big plays, which all three of those guys have been able to do with the help of a couple of receivers that have chunked it as well.
And Scott, just, we see how long a football season is and how narratives change so quickly, right? After the Utah game, Gator fans riding high, then you get the Kentucky loss and the close game against South Florida. Things change a little bit, but here the Gators are 5-4, a chance to finish if they win out 8-4. Where do you see overall that the program, the confidence in the program is right now, and how that maybe narrative has shifted with fans because of where they've set themselves up now with 3 winnable games on their slate?
Yeah, I think the narrative changed last week, really, after those losses to LSU and Georgia, and then the decision by Billy Napier to, dismiss Brenton Cox Jr. from the team, just to kind of, for foundational reasons, for just the locker room. And he talked a lot last week about, the future, about, you want to create that culture in your first year, and it's going to involve some player movement on the roster, but eventually it's going to lead to consistency. And I think that's where they're at as a program. These last 3 games, to me, that's why they're important, because you want to gain that momentum going into the off season. But I do think, he's talked so much about culture. The players have talked about it. And I think they're addressing it, in a way that I think it's real, even more real to the players than some other coaches I've been around with Napier's message. So to me, that's just where they are. I think it is a chance. If they lost last week, the narrative's a little different, right? But they won and now they have 3 winnable games. And I think the sense of optimism is back. I think we talked earlier about Anthony Richardson playing better. So the signs are pointing for them being able to do what they want to do in these last 3 games. But, they have to go out there and duplicate some of the things they did at Texas A&M.
And Sean, now we turn the page here to South Carolina, already final home game of the year. Spencer Rattler comes in, the transfer quarterback. That was a big move in the offseason. But you look at his numbers, I believe it's 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. South Carolina 6-3, not necessarily a world-beating 6-3 with their schedule. What kind of test comes into the Swamp?
Yeah, it's a decent test. I find that South Carolina has a lot of things that catch your attention, but then it's tempered a little bit. Obviously they've won 5 of 6, and you're like, wow, that's pretty great. But then you start to look at who those 6 teams are, and it's hard to say, okay, other than maybe a win at Kentucky back on October the 8th, everything else is kind of And that's kind of really the way South Carolina's been in a now bowl eligible season. Their second such now under Shane Beamer. You mentioned the 9 interceptions by Rattler. Kyle, he's been better here in the last 6, and again, they win 5 of those. He's thrown 68% completion percentage. He's well over 1,000 yards passing during that stretch. The guy's won. I mean, he's 21-5 as a starter. But I think the real headline here for South Carolina is Marshawn Lloyd. Their running back should go here today against the Gators. He sat out last week against Vanderbilt with a deep thigh bruise, but this guy's a monster in their backfield right now. He is on the brink of getting into the top 10 for single season touchdown totals. Marcus Lattimore awaits him in that top 10. We know that name, of course. And then the other little thing is, I think kind of buried here deep in my game prep, is South Carolina can hurt you on special teams. They have a school record 5 block punts this year. They might have the best punter in the conference, and that's saying a lot right now. And Mitch Jeter has been reliable enough at place kicker. He has missed 2 extra points, but he hasn't missed any of his field goal attempts. And they can beat you on the return game too. Their average kickoff return, Kyle, is over 27 yards, and they get double-digit yards on most all of their punt returns too. So there's a hidden thing here in this road scenario. The last time Carolina won at the Swamp, 2014, Steve Spurrier, the last time he won in this building here today. So look, it's the SEC. I wouldn't say that Florida's given us anything to say that they're a lock in any given game. I think it's very winnable, as you all mentioned, but those are just kind of some of my thoughts about what we'll see today in South Carolina.
You guys, appreciate the time. A lot going on in the Swamp. Senior Day, the annual saluting those who served game. So certainly so much going on here in the Swamp. We look forward to hearing and reading your work here today for the game.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle. Go Gators.
All right. Let's send it back to you, Jeff.
So there you have it. Great stuff from that trio of guys and everything you need to know about the game here just in a few hours. Something else you need to know about, though, of course, it's on the SEC Network at 4 o'clock. You can watch it that way. You can listen to it on the Gator Sports Network from Learfield with the voice of the Gators, Sean Kelly, Tate Casey roaming the sidelines, and Shane Matthews, former quarterback, up in the booth. This is also the Saluting Those That Serve Day. It's a big, big game. Appreciation for Billy Napier. Throughout the entire week, he has brought in members of the armed forces to talk to all the players, give them motivation, inspiration, but in reality, it's all of them that inspire all of us, because we wouldn't be doing this show, we wouldn't be playing a football game if it weren't for all of you doing your thing and protecting our country. So big shout out from Gator Nation to each and every one of you, and a shout out to all of you for watching this throughout the year. Hard to believe that this is the final time that we will do our First and 10 show presented by Wells Fargo, but it's been a fun run. Again, make sure you tell us where you're from and watching, because it is really special, and all of you, Gator Nation, really special as well. This will be a special day for all of the seniors, so make sure you get in there, cheer loud, cheer proud for each and every one of them, because they have dedicated so much to this university over their 3, 4, 5 years they have been here on campus. So make sure that this is a good one. I know it'll be a good one on the field if the Gators continue to get better like they have done throughout the year. That is our First and 10 show presented by Wells Fargo. I'm Jeff Cardozo. Goodbye, Gator Nation.